Hi everybody, well it is the 19th of November 2020 and DayZ update 1.10 has just dropped for console, PS4, I guess PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S and PC. So without further ado, we'll read the, I think they call it the user-friendly kind of blog post update that Bohemia publish, and then we'll go through the more dry patch notes themselves. So this is posted by Adam today at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's a rather nice picture somewhere on Cholera, I think, with the moon and the flare. Hello survivors, we are excited to inform you that DayZ Game Update 1.10 has arrived on all platforms. A huge thank you to everyone who participated in the experimental phase, both PC and Xbox communities. The response to this update has been amazing so far, and we can't wait to see how things will play out in a live environment. There are tons of substantial changes in this update, so let's get started. First off, the long-awaited M3s Truck has returned to the lands of Cholera and Livonia. This two-seat heavy-duty truck with six-wheel drive will become your new off-road friend, and its carrying capacities will be greatly appreciated by many. Along with the drivable variant, we've added a set of brand new abandoned static variants for part spawning, fully replacing the legacy wreck model on both maps. There she is now. Having a quick look at the XML files, there's only 8 of these that will spawn in at any one time on your map. So they're going to be pretty rare to find. Remember, they're going to be missing the bits, so you're going to have to go off and find a truck battery. Finally, you've got a use for the truck battery. Headlights, all that sort of stuff. Speaking of vehicles, they were updated as well. This includes increased engine durability during collisions, woohoo, with the environment, as well as the option to repair the vehicle's chassis with epoxy putty and the engine itself with a pipe wrench. Unless, of course, your engine happens to be ruined. We also added player damage when jumping out of a car. Yeah, so that's good news, especially on console. Well, especially on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Hopefully on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, you won't get the massive glitches that we get on the older generation consoles. But we'll have to see. But at least now, as long as it doesn't ruin the engine, you'll be and you've got a pipe wrench. There's a lot of ifs and buts. Then you'll be able to fix them. Many of you will be pleased to learn that we've returned leg fractures to the game, along with improvised fixtures, splints. Legs can be broken in all kinds of situations, including combat, stepping on a bear trap, falling or jumping from a great height, and even when jumping out of a car. Keep in mind that if you don't fix a fracture with a splint, you'll suffer limited movement as well as frequent shock damage, which can render you unconscious. In order for you to understand these penalties better, we've added visualizations of current shock values, i.e. how close you are to unconsciousness, and when the actual shock damage is dealt. Applied splints are now visible on the injured player as well. So what happens is, when you break your leg, you'll see down in the bottom, you can't see on this picture, but down in the bottom right corner, you'll see a picture of like a broken bone. And then if you try and walk on it, your screen will start to go darker and then you'll fall unconscious. Importantly, you can't do melee attacks while you've got a broken leg standing up. If you try and stand up and do an attack, you'll probably fall unconscious. So you always need to make sure that you always have enough rags to be able to make a splint. Now, to make a splint, you need, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I think you need 5 or 6 rags and 3 small sticks. So getting small sticks isn't that much of a thing, but if you haven't got the rags or bandages, you can make splints out of bandages. You can put yourself in a very difficult situation because you won't be able to fight off zombies if they come looking for you. We've also reintroduced the signal pistol. This simple gas-powered gun can shoot a powerful flare that lights up the night sky. Use it to call for help or when you feel like celebrating a bright moment during dark times. Ammo for the pistol comes in 4 distinct colours. We've also made some major additions and balance changes to the cold survival side of the game. Base temperatures now follow real life behaviour in regards to cold mornings and warm afternoons, and are likewise affected by local wind speeds and altitudes. Furthermore, players now have the ability to temporarily contain heat from the fireplace after they've left it. The user interface now includes information about the heat insulation qualities of an individual piece of clothing, and heat insulation maximum absorption limits for all clothes have been rebalanced to offer players more interesting choices when it comes to protection against the rain or cold. So what I'll do is in the description below the video, I'll link to Wobo's videos on breaking your leg, fixing your leg, and surviving the cold. Now, basically, you've got to be very, very careful about getting wet in the rain, that is, and especially swimming as well. And you can get cold very, very quick. And from what I remember from his video is if you get cold, if you start going hypothermic, so that's when your little temperature icon goes blue, you start using, I think it's 40 times the amount of energy that you would normally use. So what that means is you become hungry very, very quickly. So you don't actually die of cold, you die of cold and starvation because you're using so much energy when you get that cold. So it's got to be critical to have warm clothing and clothing that stays warm even when it's wet, and doing things like wringing out your clothes, things like getting under cover when it's raining at night and at high altitude where it'd be very cold, just being aware of that to survive. Having fires, you get to a situation where if you're outside at night, say in the northwest part of the map or where you're up higher where it's colder, if you're not logging off, if you're staying out, you've got to think about making a campfire, sitting next to the campfire and getting warm if you're outside, or going inside, and all this sort of stuff. It's really fascinating, really, really fascinating. And great news for those of you who enjoy the wilderness survival side of things, because we've added new improvised shelters to the game. They come in 3 variants: stick, leather and tarp, and offer basic storage capacity as well as protection from the rain. So again, the idea with these is, again, you can quickly make an improvised shelter. I'll be doing videos obviously on how to make these things, because you can make them out of leaves, I think. Actually, not leaves. I think you make them out of sticks. You combine sticks, and you can make one with leather as well. But anyway, we'll make some videos to show you how to make those. The central economy setup has undergone a number of changes as well. Compared to update 1.09, the longevity of most items in the world has been dramatically lowered. In addition to that, only locked doors stay locked during server restarts now, while the rest of the doors are randomised. So they kind of skipped over that fairly quick. But with 109, things would hang around for like 2 days. Now it's a couple of hours. They've gone back to the way it was. So that's really good. Junk stuff shouldn't hang around for ages like it was. And now, you can lock a door with a lockpick and it's going to stay locked. Last but not least, we've implemented many localization tweaks and are happy to introduce localization into Brazilian Portuguese. Well done. On behalf of the DayZ team, Adam. So lots of really good stuff here. Lots of really good stuff. So let's dive into the patch notes, where they go into a little bit more detail. Here we go. So added the M3s Truck covered variant and associated vehicle parts. Added the abandoned M3s Truck wrecks to the map, so this is where you'll find the spare parts for them. Added a respawn dialogue offering an option to spawn with a random or the main menu character. That's when you've got that set up on your server. Added localization for Brazilian Portuguese. You can now break the player's lower leg. Damage is applied by falling or brute force, so walking, fighting with a broken leg will result in shock damage. Added the signal pistol and its ammunition in various colours. Added the crafted splint. Added craft tanned leather using garden lime. So once you've killed a large animal and you've got the hide, combine that with garden lime and you'll get tanned leather, which you can then make leather backpacks. Added crafted improvised shelter. Added the tarp. Right, yeah, that's how you make some of these improvised shelters with the tarpaulin. Added the ability to replace ruined parts of tents with tarp. Added the pipe wrench to fix cars. You can now repair a damaged car engine with the pipe wrench. You can now repair parts of the vehicle chassis with an epoxy putty. Clothing items now have an indicator of their insulation value. Exposure to wind will make your character freeze more. Forests can provide cover. So again, if it's cold and you're wet, get into cover. Food decays over the time. They didn't even mention this in the other one, did they? This is probably one of the biggest ones. Food decays. So when you cook food, it doesn't last very long. Again, I'll the link to Wobo's videos down in the description down below. Very, very important. Items dry up over time when they're put on the ground or in cargo space on the ground. Proximity to a fireplace is no longer required, but the area of a fireplace dries items faster, so you can dry food to extend its life. Items cool down over time in the player's inventory and on the ground. So you can't just now cook some food and have it in your backpack and use it as heat packs. Added a heat buffer to supply an overtime heat bonus to the thermal comfort of the player character. You receive a temporary heat bonus after spending time near a fireplace. So you go near a fireplace or you go near a fire, you get warm, and that then gives you this kind of temporary buff. That then as you go out into the cold, you don't get cold as quick, but it then does disappear. Added a smoking slot to several types of fireplace used to dry meat. So it's not really a smoke. You're not smoking the meat. You're drying it out. Added additional coastline details between Stroza, prison island, and Ostrog, making the sea traversal easier and more interesting on Cholera. So yeah, go and have a look. There's lots of little islands there. So I think this is related to the fact that you will die if you have to swim for a long time in water. You will die. You'll get too cold. You'll go hypothermic. So they've made it easier to get to Prison Island. Punching now deals damage to gloves and causes bleeding to bare hands. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because as a fresh spawn, you don't have any gloves, and you often have to try and punch zombies to death. Added a visual effect to increasing shock damage, both reflecting getting hit and of current state. Again, Bohemian Interactive style. They don't tell you what that is, but it's like the screen gets darker, and you get like this halo effect on the screen that makes the visible area smaller. Added damage when jumping out of a running vehicle, also including a chance for broken legs and death. New visual heat haze effect for the fireplace, flare, road flare, and torchlights. Fixed an issue that prevented the player from combining stacks of items from their inventory, with the second stack being in their vicinity. Gas stove with canister and frying pan pot attached could be stacked infinitely. Item wetting drying was not taking into account attachment and nested inventories. Sawed-off weapons now have a short weapon length when it comes to collision with walls. Fixing an issue preventing the player from detaching their magazine. Loading ammo into a weapon using hold on quickbar, always loaded, only one bullet. That's fixed. Fixed an issue restoring a rag to the pristine state after being used as a gag. Dead bodies of players should now fall through walls less often. It should now be more intuitive to locate the inventory of dead bodies. It was possible to consume pills and other items when they were ruined. It was not possible to place traps, barrels and crates on slopes. It was possible to wash bloody hands even while wearing gloves. It was possible to get sick by drinking, eating when the player had gloves and bloody hands. Alright. Dried raw meat would trigger diseases. See, that happened to me on the test server, where I dried some meat, ate it and got ill, but they fixed that. Locked doors were not saved correctly when opened by force, making them lock themselves again after a server restart. Water particles were appearing when hitting a player that is on an object above the sea. The player was able to fish through piers. You can fish in what did I see the other day? So there's I've never used them, but around Chernobyl and Livonia there's water trailers, water what would you call bowsers, and you get fresh water from them. Apparently you can fish in them as well. I haven't tried it myself, but I know you can fish in the tiny little what they called the when you're in the towns and villages and they have the small ponds, like ornamental ponds. You can fish in them, can't you? Climbing on an object while it is being deleted could teleport the player. A Gunter 2 was spawning badly in the Savino parking lot. It was not possible to detach headlights on the Psycho 120 and Gunter 2. Gunter 2 lights were not visibly glowing. Grass was not flattened when driven over with a vehicle. Fair enough. Fixed the bug causing a stuck item widget. Text was overlapping or cut off in the tutorial screens in certain languages and resolutions. Fixed the server crash connected to user actions. The player could use materials gained from decrafting ruined construction kits. It was possible to build watchtowers on top of each other. That would have been brilliant. Why didn't I have a go at that? Swapping an item in the hands and the inventory during an action could, with the right timing, cause the head to disappear. Always a fun one. It was not possible to wash hands in the sea. Well, you can now. It was not possible to swap items in hands under certain circumstances when it should be possible. It was not possible to swap to small items when having heavy items in hands. It was possible to induce desync of the hand slot by interrupting specific actions. Wearing the great helmet would not change the player's voice. Swapping the last attachment of a fireplace would always give the max quantity of the item instead of the current. The fireplace sound was still playing when coming back to it after it died out while the player was far away from it. It was possible to overstack wooden sticks using a fireplace. Fixed an issue with firewood disappearing when put into the indoor oven or fireplace. Fixed an issue where the player could use ruined attachment in base building objects to build parts. Melee attacks the legs could sometimes deal damage to the head. Fixed an issue that allowed players to duplicate rags using the quick bar. Fixed an issue with stamina sometimes draining completely when holding breath while aiming down sights. The inventory could not be opened while forcing vomit through the gesture wheel. Boiled steaks showed the wrong texture. Adding the missing engine to the Adirex. Fixed wrong decals on the Legacy Police Olgarek. Fixed various object placement fixes for both the Chernerus and Livonia terrains. Fixed sound issues related to doors in several buildings. Certain airfield objects were glowing at night. Fixed window collisions in several buildings. It is no longer possible to climb up the broken staircase on the industrial silo. It was possible to open city store back doors at certain pieces of furniture in the front part of the building. Changed. Here we go. This is a big one. Adjusted the base temperature behaviour to be more authentic. Warm afternoons, cold mornings, etc. Wind chill, fog and altitude penalties are not applied to the local environment temperature if a player is inside a building. So again, get inside, you won't feel cold. Being under a roof provides a lower local environment temperature bonus than being inside a building. So bus stops, those places, at the kind of picnic areas where they often have the maps, they have a roof on them, don't they? They're saying if you go underneath them, it won't be as good as being inside a building, but it'll be better than standing outside. Increase the effect of altitude on the local environment temperature around the player. So the further you go inland, the colder it's going to be. Cloud cover increases the base environment temperature more. Adjusted the default comfort temperature of the player character. It's now 26 degrees C. Balance the heat insulation values of clothing. Balance the maximum wetness value of clothing items. Basically, as clothes get wetter, they insulate you from cold less. So if something's very wet, there's no point having it on. You've got to wring it out. You've got to dry it out. Lowered the maximum wetness value on the plate carrier, press vest and tactical vest. Items inside other items will only get wet when the container is soaked or drenched. Automated drying of clothing, not wringing out, is now less effective. So now you do have to physically wring things out and not just wait for them to dry while they're on you. The character speed has a larger impact on the overall heat comfort. The backpack is now taken into account for heat comfort. The armband was removed. Lowered the energy penalty in the lower warning cold state. Lowered the maximum energy buffer of the player. The pickaxe can be used to dig hidden stashes. You can now open food cans with the handsaw. You can now skin animals with axes, saws and the pickaxe, the crowbar and the screwdriver. Remove skinning from the shovel as it was causing a conflict with the berry action. I'm not sure you can use a shovel to skin an animal anyway. Reduce the usability of duct tape for certain items. So you can't fix guns with duct tape anymore. You have to use the gun repair kit. Clothing will no longer get badly damaged during the initial spawn. That's good. Shoes will no longer get damaged during the initial spawn. That's good. Tool damage due to crafting is now consistent across recipes. Balance tool damage across actions. Reduce the damage done to tools by burying ashes and players' bodies by 60%. Increase the health of the stone knife, steak knife and kitchen knife. That's good. That's good. Because again, you can't fix them with duct tape anymore. You need a whetstone, and whetstones are pretty rare, aren't they? Increase the durability of the whetstone. There's another thing. Sharpening knives cost less durability than sharpening axes, which makes sense. Reduce the melee damage against animals. Adjusted item drops from animals. Damage to individual vehicle zones will be displayed in the UI when you look at them. Excuse me. Adjusted the occurrence of arrows for bleeding in the HUD. Now more progressive instead of nothing and then 3 arrows. Right, okay. So when you're bleeding, it's not all of a sudden go to 3 lots of bleeding. Adjusted lard consumption when cooking. 1 full lard can be used to prepare 8 pieces of baked meat. It is no longer possible to dry meat by cooking it on low temperatures. So you now have to dry meat by putting it in the smoking slot on the stoves. Increase the speed of cooking when using direct cooking slots. Boathouse doors are now twin doors instead of single. Resize the heat back to 1x2 in the inventory. Did it used to be 2x2? Animal meat will fill your stomach more. Increase the nutrition value of farmed vegetables. So rather than the apples and things, your farmed ones will give you more food. It's good because they didn't used to give you much at all, did they? Increase the overall values of fruits, energy values of fruits, vegetables and mushrooms. Any drinking, eating with bloody hands bears the risk of infecting the player with salmonella, so wash your hands before eating, people. The influenza disease is generally slower in increase and has a slower immune response to it. Alright, so when you get the flu because you've got cold, it's going to take you longer to get ill, but it's going to take you longer to get better. Antibiotics are now weaker and have a slower tick rate in sync with the disease. Cholera, so this is where you've had dirty water, takes longer to build up and disappear. Penalty scale with the disease progression and high resistance against your immunity. Right, so yeah, that's interesting. So I would probably advise now, instead of, do not use the tactic of taking a vitamin pill and then drinking dirty water or eating bad food. It might not work anymore. The build-up of the salmonella disease is faster, so salmonella is what you get from eating with dirty hands, will activate sooner and penalties are scaled with the progression of the disease. Sorry, bloody hands. Charcoal tabs now have a slower tick and delayed response in fighting salmonella. Applying saline adds hydration in addition to blood. Vitamin pills can be combined, but not split. Medication can be split and combined. Higher player character immunity levels are easier to get. Requirements on water and energy are lowered, and they now correspond to the UI badges too. The tent pack action is now continuous, no more instant baking of tents. It was a bit odd that when they go bloop and they'd disappear. Trees now drop long wooden sticks instead of small wooden sticks. You have to break them up. Engines of all cars are now more durable thanks to the increased transfer of damage to them. Tweak the main menu character customization menu to better explain what a customized character means. Central economy. This is a big one. Lifetimes of items were lowered across the board. So 2 days have become 8 hours. 1 day has become 4 hours. That's a bit like that. Remember that conversation in Star Trek The Wrath of Khan where Scotty's talking to... Is it Scotty? No, Kirk's on the asteroid speaking to Spock, and he was to say, if we were to play it by the book, and if days would seem like hours when they're trying to repair the Enterprise, this change may take up to 3 days to be in effect on the official servers and on your servers too. So as you change your XML files, then it's going to take a while for the old stuff to disappear. Fix the issue of the bear not spawning properly in all cases when using the offline database. Disabled the spawning of berries. Pepper, potato, tomato and zucchini can now appear also in dried or rotten state. Don't eat rotten food, people. Infected on the coast of Cholera have a higher chance of dropping various items such as tools, clothing and food. That's good. One of the big pieces of feedback from 1.10 was that it was too hard as a new player. You know, as a new spawn, there wasn't enough food or gear for you to have. Server added global variables for toggle of wetting, drying, heating, cooling and food decay. Alright, so you can turn off that sort of stuff on a custom PC, probably server. I wouldn't have thought we'd be able to do that on Xbox. I wouldn't be able to do it on console, but let's see. Added initial flag in economy now toggles a randomizing door state every time the building loads on server except for locked doors. Added disable respawn dialog server config parameter, allowing to force always random respawn or use custom character from the main menu. So basically you'll be able to have a custom character. Fixed setting enabled debug monitor on the server blocked inventory, interaction and clients. Changed the priority queuing list is now editable at runtime. Changed avoidance system buffer increase to reduce chances of seeing warning messages. Tweaked avoidance system overload message. Launcher. Added Brazilian. Portuguese localization. Fixed the launcher was not showing the country of the language in the language selection. Modding. Okay. I will leave those. Known issues. The player may not regain the ability to sprint and climb after healing a broken leg. Okay, so there we go. That, my friends, is update 1.10. Big things, new truck, you can get cold, food getting cold and rotting is a big one. So all those stashes of food that you've got in your bases is now rotting away. You're going to have to hunt more often, you're going to have to find food more often, you're going to have to grow food more often. Really interesting, fantastic update. I think really good. It's great that they've introduced this massive update in 2020. It shows you DayZ is going from strength to strength. Honestly, really is very, very good indeed. Anyway, remember, I'll put those links to Wobo's stuff in the description down below. Thank you very much. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more of the same, and I will talk to you again soon.